So I'll have a look at it later on, just so you know. Now, I set up a poll, and I just want to check if that's going to work. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we'll see if that works, really. So here we go. The first question is this. Every CLIL teacher is a language teacher. I'm now going to start the poll. There we are. And you should see something in screen that should allow you to vote. Yes, that works. Awesome. Let's just wait until people voted. All right. I got 90 votes in now. What I find interesting is that there's actually quite some difference there. 42% says agree, and 31%, that's interesting because that's not 100 together. Oh, strange. However, there's more people who say disagree than agree, but there's still quite a lot of, well, I would say that it's either one of the two, and this shows me that you're still divided over this. My opinion is that indeed every CLIL teacher is a language teacher. Does that mean that you have to talk about grammar every lesson? No, absolutely not. I teach mathematics. I do not teach English. But I do have to provide feedback every now and then. I have to pinpoint mistakes commonly made in English or even in maths class. For example, last week a student of mine asked me, can I please make a picture of what you just explained? It was some kind of study planner that they had to copy. And I said, no, but you can take a picture if you want to. So I then corrected him, and he said it correctly after that, and then he could do it. That's just a very small way of really working with language in your lesson, and it's just one out of many examples. So I'm not a grammar teacher, and I'm absolutely not the person to teach grammar because I always confuse those rules. But I am someone who is quite fluent in English, and I can help my students to work with that. So that's the first one. I hope if you do or do not agree, you can type everything in chat. I promise I'll read it later. But for now, I'm just, there's a lot of things going on there. Next poll. Close this one. Yes. Next slide. Next poll. Every CLIL teacher should motivate language output. There we are. Yes or no? Well, that's a lot of votes. And I specifically say here every CLIL maths teacher, not every CLIL teacher, but yes, every CLIL maths teacher. So right now I see that a lot of people tend to go for agree, by far the majority, which is a good thing because I agree as well, obviously. Math teachers don't have to focus that much on language, but CLIL math teachers do. As a CLIL teacher, like I just said, you are a language teacher, and as such, one of your goals is to motivate language output. That's one of the two major goals of CLIL, together with motivating thinking skills. So motivating language output is something every CLIL teacher should do, and that includes math teachers. Now, what I do to motivate that is by, for example, asking them to present things, asking them to work together and scaffold that. There's plenty of ways to motivate output, but it's very important that you do that quite often. Now, obviously, I see someone saying motivating output is always good. I agree. Obviously, you should do that as much as possible in a Dutch class as well, or in your case, in an Italian class. But in CLIL, it's even more important because you want them to study a new language, a second language, and you cannot really learn that by just reading. You have to learn by doing it, and that's why you motivate output. All right, next one. So, this is a bit of a more personal one. Teaching in a second language limits my options for different explanation. In other words, is it harder for you to teach when you have to teach in a second language? in our case, English, but it could, be, of course, be any second language. It's really interesting to see all those votes coming in. You know, I've never done this before, so it's great to see this. Someone is saying, I can't hear you, but I get the responses, so I'm assuming the audio is still okay, right? Audio is amazing. Good. All right. So I see a lot of people disagreeing. I really don't understand the way this poll system works, because for some reason 100% is not the total. I find this very interesting, but that's just my math teacher thing kicking in. So for now, 81 users say they disagree, and 38 users say they agree. That means that there is quite a large group of teachers who are quite confident in their own English. Now, I dare to say that I fall into the category as well. I've been teaching for almost 10 years in Cleel now, so I don't have that much trouble with it. Actually, I'm teaching in Dutch again for first time this year as well, some lessons, and I have to sometimes think about what do I do now, because I'm so used to doing it in English. But I also know teachers who just started out with Cleel, and they have quite some trouble. For example, they've been teaching for 20 or 30 years. They've got their own jokes, they've got their own ways of working with students, and they have to change that into English, and they find that hard. So this is a more personal thing. This is not something that's either correct or wrong. It's just something that I want to, you know, make you realize. All right, now last poll, and then I'm going to do a bit more, you know, of explaining of things, because you're not just here to have me say what you think. Every mathematics activity is void of any language. So do you think that every mathematics activity that's, you know, in the book contains no language at all? Oh, that's quite interesting what's happening. I don't know if you can see the results live, but I find it quite interesting what's happening right now. There seems to be almost 50-50. Oh, the disagree group is now growing. So we've got, yes, still coming in. 59 people who disagree, 62, and 37 who agree. So there's about, you know, 2/3 to 1/3 group. Oh, it's rising again. Well, there's more people who disagree than agree. That's good, because I think that there are mathematics activities that contain language. In Dutch, we call those reductiesommen. Oh, by the way, my name is Patrick de Boer, which is the correct pronunciation, but I understand it's tricky for people, you know, not living in the Netherlands. It's farmer. If you translate it in English, that might be easier. But the point is, we have mathematics, we have English in almost every mathematics assignment, if you clarify it, is what I would call it. So you have, for example, a text, and I'll indeed try to speak a little less quick. I get that when I, you know, get enthusiastic. Now I have to refind my sentence. When you have an assignment where there's a lot of text involved, because they have to identify some information from that, obviously there is language there, and you can help them identify what words are important, what information they have to take from it. Sometimes it's just, you know, mathematics. For example, 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. Then it's up to you to make it into a language exercise by, for example, asking them, okay, now try to solve it yourself, and if you have solved it, compare it with your neighbor and discuss how to do this. In that way, you have introduced language again, in a way that they still work on mathematics, but they are also working on output of language. So I don't think that every mathematics activity is void of any language. I actually think there's quite some books out there that actually have language already in it, and you can have even change a lot of mathematics activities into a language activity, which is of course the purpose of a Cleel mathematics lesson, and is also the purpose of what I'm going to teach you in this webinar. So this was pretty much the introduction. Let's start with the real webinar now. In my opinion, CLIL activities should reflect two ideas. It should work on developing higher level language skills, so making sure that they get to a higher level of a second language, and it should also develop higher level thinking skills. You know, the one that Bloom talks about. So what you start with is making them repeat words, and they're just on repeating stage. They're not really understanding it. So they go up, they understand it, and at some point they are capable of applying it. For example, if I teach them how to solve an equation, at first they have to understand what equation is. And then at some point they understand how the solving part works, and then they have to use that on a new assignment to apply it. Those are all rather basic thinking skills. Later on, they have to develop their own activities and their own assignments, and then they are researching things, drawing conclusions, comparing things. That's really high level thinking skills, something that you should try to do in a CLIL lesson as well. However, I can understand you might want to focus on the language part first. Now, this webinar, I will focus a bit more on the language part. I will also talk with you about thinking skills, but I will focus a bit more into language skills, because that's something a lot of people find tricky. I hear a lot of mathematics teachers saying that they find it hard to integrate language into their lesson. So this is something that I want to focus on today. Now, obviously, my main target audience is mathematics teachers. But if you're not a mathematics teacher, and I saw quite a few different ones coming by in the chat, and if you're not a mathematics teacher, that's totally fine, of course. Language and mathematics. Now, what I want you to do, we'll do something together in a minute, but let me just rephrase this. What is a language exercise? A language exercise is an exercise which focuses on language, obviously. And a mathematics exercise is a purely subject-specific exercise. For example, 3x squared plus 2x. So these are the two definitions that I do. Now, what I want you to do now is this. I want you to have paper and pen in front of you. Normally, I always do workshops, and I like the word work in workshop because I like people doing things. Now, obviously, this is something that I can't do in a poll. But I am still interested in your opinion on this. I want to talk about this a little further on. Now, I made a Google Doc for this, but apparently that couldn't be linked to. So if you look at the screen, if you want to use the Google Doc, you can use this link, which is you have to type, which is a bit tricky. But let me just say it: http://bit.ly/1LH capital M. Oh, there it is. Brilliant. Thank you. It's also in the chat. If you put it in the chat, if you click on it in the chat, then you can go there. And the Google Forms is for later. It's the Google Doc right now. What you will see there is a table that says is it a language exercise, a mathematics exercise, or both. If you just have paper and pen in front of you, all you need to do is write down language, mathematics, or both. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you 8 activities. Activities that you can just use immediately in your lesson, and I hope that they inspire you in some way. And I want you to identify, is this a language activity, is it a mathematics activity, or is it both? So here we go, first one. Now normally I would ask, does everyone understand what I just explained? Does everyone understand the instruction?